chapter endings that spur your reader to keep reading because the book is so good and it has engaged their senses, or chapter endings. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
I'm Peg Thomas, multi-award winning author and editor. We are two editors for 5 minutes.
I'm starting the timer, but just Peg and I were arguing about the title of this, and I'm really totally just poking fun at her on the title
She
there.
does this a lot, folks, a lot. You have no idea what I put up with.
That's very true. But because we're editors, we're going to edit it down to we're going to talk about chapter endings
Yes,
because you don't just want to stop.
nothing's more frustrating than having a chapter just quit.
And
Because you're reading and you're expecting something and it just quits. And
so
then as a reader, it's like, well, do you read on or not bother? Right?
so I'm going to tell you a few different ways not to end your chapter. And then Peg is going to talk about some great techniques for how you should end your chapter. You, first of all, there is not a way where you should ever, I'm never going to say never end a chapter this way. What I will say is do not end all of your chapters with a question. Do not end all of your chapters with a cliffhanger. Do not end all of your chapters with your character mid-step and then you just cut to black. It's what you want to do. You want to learn all of these different techniques and put them throughout your book because sometimes there's a great question that you want the reader to consider, but don't ask them a question that has an obvious answer that doesn't make them want to keep reading, that makes them think the character lacks intelligence. So, Peg, what are some good ways that we can end chapters that will make the reader want to turn the page?
Well, first off, I think that people need to understand that every chapter needs to be its own little book. So it needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So when you think of the chapter, you're thinking, this is the end of the chapter. This is wrapping up why, this is letting the reader know why this chapter is in the book. What is the purpose of this chapter? How does it move the story forward, right? So always at the end of the chapter, the reader knows something, learned something, experienced something that makes them want to turn the page. Sometimes that is a question. Very rarely, but sometimes that is a question. Sometimes it's the right thing to do, right? Sometimes it is a cliffhanger. If you're in the middle of a high action scene and you're building the tension, and maybe you're right there at the midpoint where the whole world is going to shift for this character, that might be a good place to put a cliffhanger. Um, Perhaps it's something gets revealed. That's a great ending. Is you've got a revelation at the ending. The reader then has to get into the next chapter to find out. Okay, how does that affect the character? Or maybe it's just the hint of a revelation that's going to be in the next chapter, so you have to read on. So anything that wraps up neatly that chapter and pushes that chapter into the next chapter is the best kind of ending. And you do want to vary them. You, like you said, you don't want them all being the same. You don't want all questions. You don't want all cliffhangers. You don't want all big revelations. You don't want you need to mix it up. And you'll find as you get into a rhythm of writing that you're going to use the more dramatic ones in the very high-paced, high-tension chapters. But then you have to give your readers a bit of a break, right? You can't just push them the whole way through the book. You exhaust the poor little things. So in some, it's going to be more of a deep thinking issue where, oh, they just realized something, and it's more mental. If you're writing spooky stuff, it's really great to get that spooky stuff in the very end of the chapter because again, that kind of puts them at that, you get that little what's going on and they have to read on. It's always the goal of the end of the chapter to move the story forward, propel the reader to turn the page.
We're under a minute left, and so the last thought I want to put on here is your chapter ending needs to be a part of the story. Don't let it be author manipulation,
Yes, good point.
where someone gets a letter and they read the letter and they gasp and they say, "This will change my life." You're manipulating. Like, because you're saying, "I've got this information, and the only way you're going to find out is if you turn the page." Let it be part of the story. Um, Maybe they might open the letter and gasp, and that's going to make me turn the page because
And
I
quite
want to know.
often, then the next chapter will pick up with the other point of view character
Right.
and their reaction to that gasp,
And so
right?
there's ways to do it, but you don't ever want to, especially all the time, say, "I've got some information and I'm not going to give it to you." For me personally, that is a really quick way to get me to put down a book. It has to be part of the story. I don't want to feel like you're teasing me. So,
Whatever you reveal at the end of that chapter should be it, you should work up to that through the chapter,
yes.
right? Because the chapter has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You're not just throwing something in at the end that doesn't feel like it belongs there. Is that a good way to put it?
Yes. Yes. And if we've thoroughly confused you, leave us a comment
And
and
when we'll fully confuse you again.
yeah, we'll come back and clarify. But we hope that works. Come back next week. We've got another topic that we think is kind of fun. And until then, I'm Karen Beery.
And I'm Peg Thomas, and we'll see you next time.